STMMT as an Acting Director of Digital Ecosystem Development at Ministry of Communication and Digital Affairs, Republic of Indonesia. And he will talk about the role of social media in raising awareness in driving action that will be moderated by Professor Irwan Adieka Putra. Now we are pleased to welcome Professor Irwan to start the session.
Hello everybody, Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. So good afternoon for all of you. We are glad to have here Dr. Sony Hendra Sudaryana. He just finished his PhD, just quite recently he mentioned. So his PhD is in policy model for accelerating the success rate of digital startups in Indonesia. So today he's going to talk about the green tech startups, some of it, and then he prefers to have a discussion with regards to the digital ecosystem in Indonesia. So Dr. Sony, in front of you, there are about 80 to 90 students from the GNAM. This is the Global Network for Advanced Management, I think from 7 different schools internationally, and some students from the Associasi of Magister Management in Indonesia. So without further ado, I think I would like to invite you to the front and probably proceed to your presentation. Please, Dr. Sony.
Thank you. Check. Hello, we're in Indonesia right now. Next slide. Can I have a clicker? Hello, how are you? Hai. Apa kabar? We have 746 ways to greet you. Ada clicker nggak? I only know about 5 local language. I'm from Madura. I know Java. I was born in Manado, and then I think I know several words from Sulawesi. Voice command. That 746 is come from our diversity. We have 746 language, around 1,100 ethnic groups. It's come from our diversity. Next. And do you know how big Indonesia? If you see on the map, it's from east coast to west coast of the United States. Probably if you go by plane from the west part of Indonesia, it takes 12 hours of flight, commercial flight, from Sabang to Papua. It's a very big country. We are right now the 4th most populated country. And next. Right now, around 220 people are already online. Indonesia is around 280 people, million people, and around 220 are already online. Around almost 80% of the population already online. Next. Now, and then to lock bigger economic opportunities, we started by building the infrastructure. So I forgot to introduce myself. I work in the Ministry of Communication and Digital. So this is our main job. We cannot talk about the digital economy or digital ecosystem without the proper connectivity and infrastructure. So the first thing that we do, we build and connecting all the nation, all the big island in Indonesia with fiber optic cables. Around 500,000 kilometers of fiber optics. It's around 9 times around the world if the cable is and then the second, we connect the last mile connectivity with BTS, not boy band, but base transmission, last mile for the citizen, for around 70,000 villages already connect with the connectivity. And then because Indonesia is mainly consists of island, we cannot connect all the small island. And the last, we connect with high throughput satellites. Around 9 active satellites, high throughput satellite. Not previously, if use satellite for calling, but this is for the data to reach remote areas. Right now we are the member of G20. We are number 16, the most largest economy, but basically largely on export commodities from oil and gas, something like that. And then we want to shift to digital economy. From conventional economy, we transform the boost digital economy. And right now we host many unicorns in Southeast Asia. Basically, Southeast Asia, half of Southeast Asia is Indonesia. Around 600 million people in Southeast Asia. Half of them is Indonesia. And then right now we, in the bonus demography, 40% of the Southeast Asia is under 30. So it's very young generation in right now. Next. We are the largest, as I mentioned. Next, probably. And we also a regional hub for investment for VC. And then to speed up the Indonesia digital transformation, our government have 5 priorities. The first is connectivity, to build the high-speed internet infrastructure. The second, to build the national data center. And then the third, focus on human capital. And then the fourth is focus on to build the digital economy ecosystem. And then to wrap it up, all this by primary legislation to boost the innovation. Next. What we do in our ministry, this is the building blocks for Indonesia Digital Nation. There are 3 main blocks. The first is digital government, the second is digital society, and then the last one is digital economy, which consists of the infrastructure, talents, support technology, R&D, and also regulation and policies. Next. Specific for digital talents, we have mapped the framework for development. The first is basic digital skill for digital literacy. This is for public in general. It probably in Indonesia it took more than 10 years and billion of dollars to set the culture of Indonesian people to adopt e-commerce. Previously, probably 10 or 15 years ago, nobody would trust about if you buy something on the internet, the goods will not come to your house. So usually we're using cash on delivery, but it's not scalable. So the startups spend their money on the commercial, how to make the user convince them that it will work. If you buy something on the internet, the product will send it to your home. It took billion and almost 10 years. Right now, everyone who use the biggest in Indonesia, I think Tokopedia, Shopee. If you click and use app, everyone will make sure the product will deliver. There's no big issue in that matter right now. And then the second, the second is for the intermediate skill, for the technical level, and then the last one is for the leaders. So it's important for the leaders to have a mindset of digital transformation, because if you have an idea in your institution, if your boss doesn't buy your idea, it will not deploy. So it's important to have the mindset of the leaders, to have the digital leadership about transformation. And then next. This is what we are doing, especially in our Directorate General, how to make the contribution from digital economy increase until 20% in 2030. So the engine is a pentahelix. We are focused on the government side. There are four that we are focusing, how to boost and how to facilitate about development of digital startups. And the second, digitizing traditional or traditional business or sector. And then the third is game and animation. And then the last one, to help digital transformation for established companies. We hope that through four focus program can help to boost the GDP from the digital economy. Next. After we invest in infrastructure, we spend $1 billion in infrastructure. The next, we invest in founders, we invest in people. And to create next wave of entrepreneurs, the first 4 unicorn is born around 15 years ago in Indonesia. We have Gojek, Tokopedia, Bukalapak, Traveloka, and then we need to create the next wave of entrepreneurs, because Indonesia now is in the bonus demography. We need to create jobs. Like an example, one company like Gojek can create 3 million jobs for the drivers. Like one company like Tokopedia help 12 million SME selling online. Nobody can have like an impact, that big impact. Only startups can do it in a certain short of time. We need to create more entrepreneurs, digital entrepreneurs. Next. How we do it? We try to build the end-to-end startup ecosystem development to strengthen Indonesia's digital economy by empowering digital entrepreneurs and maximizing the digitizing of strategic sector. So we have basically we have 3 basic programs that we run all over Indonesia. Next. The first one is 1,000 startups. This is to help a lot of young generation wants to build their first company, want to build their idea into product, but don't know how. They don't know the knowledge, they don't know the network, they don't have mentors, they don't know the network for the capital or the technology. So that's why we bring this program to answer the needs of the young generation, to build their startups, to solve solution, to give solution to the problems, and build the ventures, the first ventures, from ideation to MVP, minimum viable products. And then the second program is this is the program, and also we have like apps for that. We also send books all over across Indonesia through 34 provinces. And then the second program is to help more mature startups to find their product market fit. A lot of startups fail in this phase. So the product that they build, the MVP that they build, cannot match with the market. So a lot of we call it value of that is around the product market fit. This is the power is very customized. So the tagline is less classes, more on brainstorming. And then the last one is Hub ID. It's a matchmaking program to match the startups meet with investor. We created around 140 startups to meet with 150 venture capital around the world. Usually we conduct in September every year. In one day, it's around 1,000 one-on-one meeting. So in 2 days, around 2,500 meeting, one-on-one meeting happen in this event. Next. We also built like an innovation hub in all across Indonesia. Next. This is our impact. We started in 2016. Right now, we help build more than 1,600 startups, 200 plus already nurtured and support, and then 63 already invest in post-program. And I think the numbers right now around 200 million US dollar investment already received. And these are the notable alumni. Next. This is the ecosystem that we built in several cities in Indonesia. Started from the mentor network, in-house dedicated about products, program and modules, angel investor, talent pool. This is basically what we built in several cities. So the knowledge and the network not only built in around Jakarta, but also the other city of Indonesia. So the young generation of Indonesia have the same right to have same knowledge with every big cities in Indonesia. Next. And then we also our program also focus on green technology. So we see that technology can solve many problems and also make a movement. We try to collaborate with, we call it the program is Hatch. It's like an egg, yeah, to help them hatch. We work with GIZ and then from Germany, like a incubation program. Basically like a 4-6 months program focused in Surabaya and surrounding, and also Bali. It's a green climate or agriculture sector to help them to become viable business and also to support the entrepreneurs to digital talent program. Next. Also we have a program called Connected initiative to facilitate information exchange and enhance the capacity of digital startup in Indonesia. Focus on digitizing industries such as green tech, and then also provide them a platform for government, industry, and investor to support this movement to help them make a sustainable business. Next. This is one of my favorite startups in our program. A lot of, probably more than 10 startups that focus on tech and green and climate. So the story of behind this, the founders work in FMCG before the career. So he know that the place that he worked contribute a lot of plastic waste, because it's like a shampoo and perfume, something like that. So he knew the impact to the world, and then suddenly he got inspired to try solve problems. So he built the ecosystem to like apa ya, nembus dosa mungkin ya kalau di Indonesia. Jadi he built waste management system. Right now, around previously only 4 people on the team. After the program, right now almost 100 people. So it's very fast the scalability. So basically, he helped to manage waste and make it a sustainable business. So from the social entrepreneur can the business can sustain, not only to help the waste management, but also he can create businesses through this idea and application. Next, probably to make it more clear, we can see the video together. Nggak ada. Okay, let's continue to the session, Pak. Nggak bisa. Yeah. Thank you, that's it.
Thank you, Dr. Sony, for very interesting presentation. I forgot to mention that Dr. Sony is currently the acting director of Digital Ecosystem Development at the Ministry of Communication and Digital Affairs, Republic of Indonesia. So, okay, please, if there are any questions, raise your hands so I can take 3 questions first. Any question from audience? No question?
Any question about Indonesia is okay.
Anybody? So probably if there is no question, I will ask one question, Pak, about the ecosystem app. So this is for the whole Indonesia or just in Jakarta or in particular area?
Oh, Indonesia.
Oh, okay.
Like
So
Surabaya already. So, like a waste from oil from the kitchen,
okay,
they convert
the
into
frying oil.
Yeah, yeah.
Okay.
Because the frying oil usually use export to apa? To use to like a fuel for airplane.
I see.
So
okay. So
it's
so
very
use it-
very usable.
Very interesting. Probably my next question is, if one of the participants would like to engage in this startup business, what is your suggestion? Pak?
Probably for startups, you need to find not the business first, but the problems first. Start from problems. Start from problems, and because business model can change, like we see like Facebook, they find their business model probably after spending a lot of billion building the apps, right? But after they find the business model and then they scale up. So a lot of entrepreneurs, especially startups, the difference is in conventional. The first is focus on the problems, and then the second about the scalability. If the conventional, probably the growth is only target around 10% annual, right? This year I have 100 profit, and then next year probably 110. But if you go with the startups way, the growth is 10% per week. So like Gojek, 100 driver this week, next week 110 driver, so like exponential, 210 in just 2 weeks. So they reach like 1,000,000 drivers is only in not around 1 or 2 years. So the growth is and then the scalability. If you build conventional businesses, probably if I build like a shop, probably our market is only like 3 or 4 kilometer, right? Or I build like barber shop, it's only 3 or 4 kilometer the market. But if we build it online or like a network, it become like national or probably global. That's the startup concept. And then the last one is about ini apa? Capital efficient. Just from your ideas to product through digital, just with your skill on coding or your teams, you don't have to buy property, you don't have to invest in office. So you just start small, start from your idea into MVP and then start scale from that. So very capital efficient.
So the initial capital is quite low.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Basically, Gojek is started from using not apps, but started with the Excel, Pak, using phone call and Excel. And then they like to validate the idea. After they sure and then the idea is validated, they started building the application.
So Gojek is the leading ride-hailing apps in Indonesia.
Like a
Please,
Uber.
you have a question? Go ahead. Is that all? Oh, next. Okay. Next. Okay.
Thank you for
Your name and
I'm Tadashi from NES Singapore, learning Japanese. And then I was in the venture capital field in the last year, and then I'm thinking that it is really important for the ecosystem itself of the startup. And then my question is like, is there any venture capital focusing on the sustainability field in Indonesia? I think that maybe Intudo is more focusing on the Indonesian startup itself, but I'm curious about the more sustainability perspective. And this is one thing, my question.
Thank you. There are a few venture capital focus on green technology, we call, but not on the large ticket size, probably in the level of angel investor or pre-seed. And few of the usually they are also fund from non-profit organization. A lot of focus on that also. So there are a lot of fund that already ready to deploy. Usually the problem is they cannot find the proper idea or the proper founders to invest. That's our problem right now. The fund is already there, but to invest in the right people and the right idea is doesn't match the criteria from the funding.
Thank you for your presentation. And we are from China. We are from Renmin University Business School. And my name is John. Yes. Actually, we arrived in Indonesia yesterday, and we like this very beautiful country. We arrived in Bali. Yes. So today we go to Dhaka, and yes, very beautiful. So I love this country very much, and I have some questions for the teacher. First is, what good advice do you have for the people who want to come to this country to engage in information technology entrepreneur? And actually, in the past 10 years, I become from information software engineer to salesperson, and then I become to entrepreneur in China. And actually, I want to know how to be an entrepreneurship in Indonesia. This is question one. And the next question is, what point do you think we should pay attention to? Should the entrepreneur show patience too? Yes. Maybe better. Yes. Yes. The factor. To information technology entrepreneur in Indonesia. Yes. The newcomer.
Okay, thank you, John, for the question. And I hope you enjoy Bali. You should go to Jogja also, I think. It's very different part of Bali and Jakarta and also other cities, very, very different. And then probably Jakarta is like a miniature of Indonesia. If you deploy your product here, probably if you succeed, probably will be success all across Indonesia. Like if you want to understand and enter Indonesia IT market, I think the first thing you should understand the local context. The local context, the psychology aspect, and then the culture. It's easier if you find a partner here as a co-founders, because you need to look and sound like Indonesia by partnering with Indonesian people. So if I have because the culture is very different. If you go to other part of Indonesia, if you want to enter the market, a little bit difficult if you don't look and sound like Indonesia. I give you an example, like not necessarily the technology. Like when Uber, like the first ride hailing, yeah, they go to Indonesia, they doesn't survive here. The technology is, yeah. Uber and Gojek. So Uber with the technology, with the money, come to Indonesia market, but doesn't understand the context about Indonesia people. Indonesia people, the financial inclusion about the credit card is low. Uber using credit card only, and Grab and also Gojek at that moment they can use cash. So there that doesn't survive in that point. So in technology, usually the winner takes all. So right now the biggest is Grab and Gojek in Indonesia. But the use of cash, it become a very lot of drama because if you buy with the large amount of money, you don't have the change. So it's a problem, but it's a good problem. So Gojek innovate with GoPay. They built their own payment system. So right now, GoPay is the biggest payment system in Indonesia. Everyone, so it's a blessing in the sky because of the problem and drama around the payment with cash. They innovate with GoPay, and then it becomes our culture right now to pay with QRIS, what you call? Apa tuh? Apa QRIS? QR code, yeah. QR code, scan using pay with your mobile. It's like become a culture, and every day we do it here in Indonesia. So the first is understand your local context. And about the manufacturer, Yeah, about manufacture. I think I don't know much about the how to build fabric in our manufacture in Indonesia, but I think in manufacture the startups started to build solution for manufacture. A lot of startup from our program focus on solving problems in the factory to make it more efficient, to make it more fast and cheaper. So if you want to enter the manufacturer, probably it easier and cost effective. You enter it with technology to make it more efficient through startups. No, not like a heavy to build something big factory, but how to enhance the efficient of the factory with the technology through the startup. Probably simple like if you have time, you can go to BSD City. Apa ya namanya? Yeah, I forgot the name of startup. Suddenly I forgot the name. So they are like a lab that startups provide what the factory or manufacturer needs to connect with vendors through the technology, through the apps. So it's like a Tokopedia but for manufacturers. But they have their own labs in BSD.
Thank you. Okay. Over there, go ahead.
All right. Thank you. Brandon here from Agada Business School of Mexico. So I do have a couple questions. I'm very interested on what you said about it is very important to partnering with a local or with a local company to understand how the business works. I read that about Uber in the past, how it worked. Now that I've been able to use Gojek or Grab for traveling here, I mean, I was riding one of those motorcycles yesterday. I was about to be killed like 20 times. But it's funny though. I need to feel that I'm in Indonesia, right? Well, from your perspective on creating initiatives that the startups could use or guidance on how they can be profitable in the future, what's the perspective from you on how do we do this business socially responsible for the future? I know that you mentioned that most of the economy is cash-based, but it gives me the idea that some of those cash business not often report all to the tax institutions. In case, for example, if we go to a credit card or something related, where we can track them, how will we use that tax money to improve the condition from the citizens? I believe that will be my question. So, how do you conduct businesses or new startups to be socially responsible with, for example, with Gojek or Grab offering social security to their drivers? I know that they offer for the rights, but they're informal workers at the end. So, how do we guarantee that your people here in Indonesia have good conditions to grow or to be safe on the city?
Thank you. A very good question. I think like from basically our regulation doesn't include motorcycle as a public transport. Not motorcycle is not part of public transport. It's debatable because it creates jobs. So around probably almost 4 million people depending on that particular ride hailing, and then around 500,000 SMEs from GoFood depend on that. So usually, if this is not a formal worker, right? They don't have like Usually conventional ojek driver doesn't have like a payroll, doesn't have like insurance, but after they join Gojek, they suddenly they have like a income statement, so then they can have eligible for credits. That first. So if the driver wants to take a loan or credit, they can have the balance sheet of their earnings from the application, and also insurance in the road. I hope you don't have to use that. But Jakarta is different. Jakarta, the traffic of Jakarta is different. Probably if you go to other cities in Indonesia, it doesn't like thrilling like in Jakarta. So, and also we see technology or startups, it makes the jobs become cooler. Previously, nobody wants to work as a like a driver or ojek driver, but because of the technology, they don't have to wait on the sidewalk or the pangkalan. They use technology and then go there. And right now we see the changes also in the agri-tech sector. So a lot of young generation doesn't want to be farmers, doesn't want to. They want to find jobs in the cities. They doesn't want to be like a peternak, to breed animals, chicken. But because of these startups, there's a startup called Chicken. They from the apps they can know how to run farming, how to breed chicken. Started from the model, and then from the loan from the banks, also until how to sell through this application. Also like Era Tani, how it's a application for farmers to help them find capital from the banks, and also to help them find the seed, and then until how to fertilize, the time of fertilization, until to how to sell through these apps. So it make this particular farming become more cooler job with technology. I think that's our what impact that we see in the sector from the startups.
Thank you. So, okay, go ahead. State your name.
Thank you for the opportunity. My name is Steve Kandi from Diponegoro University. One of the significant program of the Ministry of Communication and Digital is a National Data Center or PDN. Yeah, so to centralize the government data. But in June 2024, the national data security is suffer from the cyber attack from ransomware, which makes suffering for the national data. Yeah. So, what is the government plan to secure and enhance the cyber security in the meantime to Indonesia being fully digital nations? Thank you.
Okay, thank you about the question about the incident. So basically, when we go digital transformation, everybody is like FOMO, right? Let's go from conventional to digital. Everyone like changing boats from the conventional boat to digital, the new one. Everyone, the focus on is change. But we forgot probably after the data already digitized, The second is how about the security? That incident, particularly if you see about the cyber security, they have standards, high standard about the cyber security. A lot of incident is because of the cyber hygiene. It's very different. The cyber security is one thing, but the more important is cyber hygiene, the culture and the behavior of the people itself. Probably you can have a very secure room like this one, like this place, but you cannot guarantee there's no one doesn't take a bath or probably the hygiene is everyone is like everyone is responsible or on their own hygiene, especially on the data or security. So the culture, the focus on the government right now is to set the digital literacy on cyber hygiene. Not only for the system, I think like a lot of cases, the Facebook is already hacked or like WhatsApp or other social media. The social media security is very high, but the problem is the people that have the account. They don't hygiene themselves. So the focus on the government, like I mentioned in my slide, is the digital literacy. Not only teach them how to use technology, but their corridor on security measures that they have to know, like you don't share your password, like OTP, and then don't click links that you don't know. Probably you guys already know about this, but imagine if you build like internet connectivity on remote areas, and then someone send them link, you just win money. They don't think and then langsung click. And then that's our jobs as a government to make sure everyone safe in the use of internet.
Thank you. We still have time. Go ahead. You can ask questions.
Selamat sore.
Selamat sore.
My name is Hamisa from Universities Indonesia. Thank you for insightful presentation regarding Lolo for social media liaison. First, I would like to know if there is telecommunication industries in Indonesia engaged in climate awareness campaigns, and if yes, how can they use data analytics from social media platform to measure the impact of social media? I mean, the impact of climate awareness campaigns. Thank you.
Oh, we don't have a specific program with that for the climate, but we help we help startups that focus on that. We help startup that focus on climate also, and then like carbon trading. So we see technology in Indonesia like to change something like big policy. Sometimes you need to go viral to make a difference. So through this social media, we see a lot of young generation make a movement. Last year, I met with I think 16-year-old girl. He had a campaign on climate change on social media. in Surabaya. It's the second largest cities through social media or technology. We also see that if we use the social media and also like a technology for startups, we can scale our initiative more fast because of the use of technology. I never imagined in my life. This is the power of digital economy. Probably before 4G, basically like 2011, we don't need this. I never use cell phone. I use computers to watch YouTube, to watch because of the connectivity. At the moment is only 3G. Everyone using Wi-Fi. Right? After 4G deploy, everything different. Everyone use and watch the content on their cell phone because everything can distribute to the connectivity from 4G, and then that moment become like all application, all the startups become a lot of innovation coming up after the connectivity. And then we see like a house mom just only using TikTok. She can sell 15 billion rupiah in one day using this technology. So it creates more than we think, I think, impact. It depends how we use it. Is it to start a movement or to start business or to do negative thing? So the ministry, there are two approach. The first approach is to boost innovation, to make use of the application for positive things, and the second approach is to block the negative content. So that is our approach. It's in our ministry is focused on helping the ecosystem for horizontal. All sector, all ministry, we help them to build the ecosystem. But it depends on the sector itself. We also help from the Ministry of Forestry to help them with the new technology called blockchain for the carbon trading. That's our initiative also with the Ministry of Forestry, and also help like a startups to start a movement. We call it Lindungi Hutan. It's like they protecting the forest, but focus on the bakau, mangrove. Focus on mangrove. They raise fund, and then they like a CSR from the big companies, and then they have like a platform on reporting how many meters square or how many kilometers of the mangrove forest that they already plant, and then to make it more transparent to the company that funded the movement. So we see a lot of movement that can be like a national wide, probably globally with this initiative through startups and technology.
Okay, thank you. I think we should finish a bit early because I know that at 4 o'clock you have to go somewhere. I guess I'm not trying to summarize, or probably I just mention some points. according to Dr. Sony, if you want to invest in Indonesian startup, it's better if you can partner with a local partner, so that you sound and look like Indonesians. Also, start with the ideas. No, sorry, start with the problems. So what is the problem that you're trying to solve? That's his message. And I just recently, just today, I heard the term cyber hygiene is part of the digital literacy, which is, I think, quite important and interesting. I think that's it for now. Thank you, Dr. Sony, and please give a big round of applause to Dr. Sony.